It's the Good Slate Late Show with your host, Graham Jones.
Hi, and welcome back to the Good Slate Late Show. I'm your host, Graham Jones. Today, person who needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. We have Heidi Moneymaker.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for
Here
joining.
at the Good Slate.
Yes. So, what are some of the things that got you started in the stunt industry early on? I know you come from a gymnastics background.
Yeah, well, I was a gymnast for a long time, but the reason I started gymnastics when I was little was because I kept jumping off my bed and, doing things that were kind of crazy and stunty-like. And so
Right.
My parents thought it'd be good to get me into a sport, especially like gymnastics, where I could maybe learn how to fall and control myself in the air.
Yeah.
So I started gymnastics at a young age because of that. So skip ahead, I went to UCLA, I did gymnastics there, and I met a bunch of people that had been on the team prior to that had gotten into stunts, and I thought that it sounded like a fun thing to do. So first and foremost, I was just doing gymnastics type doubling, commercials, that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I met a few other stunt performers and learned I could ride motorcycles and drive cars and do all this other stuff that I really decided to get into it. So as far as a one defining moment, I think it was more of a slow, gradual roll into it.
Was it your goal when you started out? Did you always want to be a coordinator? Did you want to be a director?
You know what? I'm such a performer. I love the act of performing. I love being in front of camera. I love doing it behind camera. I like the act of being physical and being a part of the creativity of things. Right. So for me, for the longest time, I thought I'm just going to perform forever. I really did like the process of directing. I liked shooting previs. I liked editing. I liked telling stories. So that was always in the back of my mind that might be something that I would like to do. But it wasn't until I had a couple of head injuries and, was down for a while performing that I jumped into fight coordinating and stunt coordinating so I could still be working during that time. Stunt coordinating wasn't always a huge goal, but being a director, painting the picture, creating the project really was.
Being a creative, really, more or less. You talked a lot on Duke Jackson's podcast, Philosophical Fall Guy. Go check that out if you have not yet, but he's a great guy. I just met him this week as well.
Yeah, Duke's amazing.
So if you want to learn more about Heidi, she definitely goes way more in depth on all of that. Definitely check out Duke Jackson.
When you guys started in the industry, what groups or individuals helped you first get started?
I mean, I have to say that I have been very supported throughout my career from a lot of different groups. I kind of started off with a lot of the Brand X team and them being, hiring me and putting me, into their films and shows and teaching me things and helping me along the way. And same with, Stunts Unlimited. There's people all over the place that have been super helpful and have been a big part of my career. And with 8711, I think I had met Chad Stahelski when I was training another woman in a gymnastics gym, and he was getting ready to go to one of the matrices. And we kind of met, and he hooked me up with Ming Lu, or Chu Ming. She's amazing, and she started teaching me how to kick and do wushu and kind of learning martial arts.
You had no martial arts background prior.
No martial arts background prior to that. So I was working with her quite a bit, and when Chad and the guys came back from Matrix and they started formulating 8711 and all that, they would let me come and do Saturday workouts there where they were training and kind of let me sort of slide in here and there, help with, actress training when they had an actress, I'd come in and do that. So I think it took a little while for them to see if I was going to be able to be a good fighter, if I was going to be a good part of that team. And ultimately, I was there all the time, every day. I started teaching classes and then became female member of 87.
Right,
so.
Of course.
But those guys are my brothers, John Valera, JV, Danny Hernandez,
all great guys.
All those guys definitely trained me, helped me along the way. I'm still really tight with all of them. I'm really proud of all of them. They're directing now and, doing their own thing. So, yeah.
Was there any moments where you were moments of doubt, I guess?
Not necessarily moments of doubt, but I will say that when I was first in the industry, in the business, I was working quite a lot, but people knew me as a gymnast, aerialist, somebody who, was good at those types of things, regular stunts. And I had been training with the 8711 guys for quite a few years, and I had gotten pretty good at fighting, but no one knew that really, right? No one around really knew that. So I had basically gotten to a point where I was like, well, maybe I'm just never going to do a film fight. I'll just train this because I love it. So I kept doing it because I loved it. So I think I did one little kind of wrestling type fight thing on My Name is Earl in my career at one point, but my first real film fight was Iron Man 2. Yeah,
film
and it's
fight.
like I say that a lot. People are like,
Yeah.
that was your first film fight. It's like, yeah,
The
because I've been
iconic hallway
doing
fight,
it
yeah.
for so long. I've been training it. I've been prevising. I've been honing those skills for so long. I just no one had known that I could do it yet.
Right. To say that's your first fight on film, that is obviously why you are who you are.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about Thunderbolts. One question: did Yelena do the jump?
So she did the jump. She did the jump on a rig. She did a 15-foot jump off of that building, but it was 2,000 feet in the air. And I'm telling you, we had Michael Huggins and his team, Stage One Stunts, built an incredible rig for her, and we tested it with the stunt personnel and everything. But it still, when you're standing on the edge of a building that's 2,000 feet in the air, it's quite scary. So she did jump.
Yeah.
But Katie Hansen is one of the most decorated base jumpers in the country. She's the one who actually doubled her doing the base jump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But Florence did jump off the building. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, actually, it's Florence that got us the approval to do it in the first place.
Really?
Because Disney was not. They're very, very safe, and they don't let their actors go on wires or lines that are more than 15 feet in the air. And so she wanted to jump off the building. She wanted for us to be able to base jump off the building, all these things. And so she made it happen. She went and I don't know what she had to do to make it happen, but she did. She got us. It was really all her. I mean, there's a whole team that went into it, but she was the one that was able to get it approved for us. So.
Right, and then you coordinated and doubled, correct?
I doubled her in one scene at the end of the film, as unfortunately our really amazing stunt double Sarah Irwin had gotten hurt last minute, and it was a little bit of a complicated rig. So, want to just hire anybody, and I didn't have time to make sure that the person could do it. So, yeah, I jumped right in. It's the wiry bit at the end, I guess.
Do you find yourself doing that a lot?
Sometimes. I mean, I jumped in on a cameo on this kind of because there's a point where the Yelena character fights another younger girl, Black Widow, and so I doubled the younger girl.
But you can't see your face.
No. It wasn't a full cameo. It was a stunt cameo. There was a lot of hurdles to jump. There always are, right? We didn't really know if we were going to get approval on that jump until a few weeks before we did it. So it was only like 4 or 6 weeks beforehand. I don't know the exact time frame, but it was a very short time frame for us to be able to do that. We didn't know the country. We didn't know the rooftop. We didn't know if we were doing it. And that was happening right after we were planned to be in Utah doing the huge car sequence. And those married right up to each other. So the challenges there were lying in that we had our entire stunt team going to Utah to do this massive car scene, all these explosions, turning all these trucks and cars over. And at the same time, we needed our stunt team in then Malaysia to prep so that we could leave right from Utah and get to Malaysia and do this jump. So that was a big challenge. Michael and I were dividing and conquering. Noon stayed with me on the driving unit because he got to flip a car. Michael took his team over to Malaysia and got all the structural engineers and got things going for the build on that roof because we had to build a deck. The roof was it didn't really have a deck on top. Yeah. It was open. It had a bunch of solar panels and things. So we had to actually build a deck on top of the roof to then build the rig on top of her to jump.
Now, this was one of the first Marvel films that I've seen. You guys did a lot of practical stunts, right? Yeah. There wasn't as much wire work and green screen VFX stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing going in was that we want this to be a little more grounded.
Was that your call?
No. That came from the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that would always be my call.
Yeah.
If you're asking me what my call would be, I'd always do it all practical.
Yeah.
But no, it came from the top. They wanted the emotionality that we see in this film now with the story. They wanted that, and they wanted everything all the action to be more grounded and real. We couldn't even say green screen or blue screen on set. It was like a no.
Yeah, no, we're not doing this.
We did a little bit of it,
but nowhere near as much as the normal.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that would always be your call, is that easier or is that just your personal preference?
It's not easier. It's easier to not do it and to send it over to VFX, because then we don't have to do all the prep and it costs less for us and all that kind of thing. But it
looks way cooler.
Right. When it comes down to it, I mean, that's what we do. We create action, we do stunts, and when you're there and you do a physical stunt, it adds to the scene. And we try to take a lot of precautions now, right? So if we don't have to do something and we know we can paint it in later or something, we always will. Instead of doing fake fire, we'll do real fire but smaller and enhance it later, right? So, but for me, when we're doing some of these things, if you don't have a small bit of pyro involved in an explosion or a car, a car getting launched from a bomb, sort of takes away from the moment in the scene. It's for the actors and for people watching playback and understanding what we're actually shooting and what we're trying to create. It's really helpful to have things be somewhat practical.
Can you give us anything that we might not get from watching the movie? Do you have any funny moments?
We did actually do a lot of very practical things. Like sometimes it felt like, 90s or 80s horror kind of stuff that we were doing. there's a point where Bob and Yelena are in the attic and the stuff's kind of swirling and whatnot, and the wall comes in and kind of grabs her and tries to pull her in. Well, we literally had a hole cut in that attic, and we had a piece of spandex that matched the wallpaper over the hole, and we had, I think it was our Sentry double, Alec Beck, I think it was him, can't remember exactly. He's laying on the, I'm sure he'll be in a frame here, but he's laying on the roof on the outside of the set, and he's doing this through the spandex and grabbing her. So like, even though it looks visually effecty on the day,
it's creepy,
we did things like that were just really funny, because you're now on a huge big budget film seeing like spandex hands come through the ceiling being like around her neck. So there's a couple of things like that were pretty funny.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that scene. Actually,
I think they might have redone it with a visual effect, or at least they enhanced it for sure. So you can't really tell, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, of course. I would hope they didn't leave the spandex hands in.
I mean, there's the other funny thing too that I think has been said, and people know this by now, but Joe Dryden was our Bucky motorcycle double, and he's just amazing. But the helmet,
a lot about him.
the helmet. Oh, right, because John was here. But the helmet he had on, I don't know if you guys talked about that, but it was.
We got it. We got a photo.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. Thank God it's Joe, and he has a good sense of humor, because it's just like they even had ears on it. I mean, it was so ridiculous. He's just doing these badass things all over the place with this ridiculous thing on his head. It was just kind of like
it's hard to watch when you're behind camera.
Yeah, I mean, Katie Hansen, our jumper off the roof, had the same thing too, though. She had a big helmet with a big wig on it.
Just the Yelena hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for VFX they like to see the hair moving, and then they shrink everything down. But it's good. Disney wants to be safe, and they require that you.
That is great, but it's funny to watch.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your stunt team. Who all you brought on for this. We obviously know John's there. But other members of the stunt team, you filled us in on Katie. I know Noon was there as well. You brought him in was he assisting or co?
Noon was everything. Let's see. Noon was on the rigging team. He was the second unit stunt coordinator. He did one of the turnovers in the Humvees. He drove the box truck into the double Bucky and drove the box truck into the penthouse
his usual
lobby.
Thing, doing everything. Yeah.
So it's hard to say, but no, he was our second unit stunt coordinator.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing. We had such an amazing team. I mean, beyond amazing. I mean, the amount of stunt coordinators that were part of the team in general was incredible. Yeah. You know, we had Michael Huggins and his whole team, Ralph Cook, all of them rigging and, driving and involved. Shane Haberstad was with us. Jeff Haberstad came out to help safety when Shane did his turnover in the Humvee, so that was really cool. We had a lot of family involved, which I thought was really cool. My sister, Renee Moneymaker, was the assistant stunt coordinator. We had Caleb Spilliards and Sean Aiden, who I don't think got credited in the film, but he was part of creating all the fights for that. Okay. We actually started prepping the film. We were 2 weeks out of shooting, and then all the strikes hit. So we had teams that started, like Michaela McAllister, who normally doubles Florence Pugh. Yeah. But then, congratulations, Michaela got pregnant and had her first child, so she couldn't come back for us finishing up on Thunderbolts.
There was a big gap in between the comeback, though, right?
Yeah, it was like 7 months. So by the time we came back, we had to re-prep the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it was a whole new team at that point. But we had Sarah Irwin was our Florence double. Cece Ice was one of the doubles for her. We had Holly Dowell was in there doing all sorts of stuff. Erica Keck. We had a bunch of guys in for, all the military stuff. With regard to that, we had some actual Navy SEALs in there. Ben Akrig, Alec Beck. I mean, we had an insanely talented doubling team. Nania. I'm gonna leave people out, and I'm so sorry, but we had an incredible team.
It's a lot of names.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like who all we had. George Caudle was the second unit director. Okay. He's always great to work with. We had a good time. So yeah, the team itself was just super stacked, and we all know each other well and work well together, so it made it easier.
And have you worked with Noon on other things, correct?
Oh, yeah. I've known Noon. Noon was one of the first people I ever met in the business.
Right.
His dad actually was the first person I met that was a stunt coordinator.
The first person you worked for?
I didn't work for his dad right away. I just met him through a director that I had met somehow back before I was even sure I was going to do stunts. And then I worked for Noon kind of almost immediately. So I've known him since the beginning of my career. And it's just, now we're just really, really good friends, and we work together anytime we can, and I would do anything for him.
I know you talked a little bit to Duke Jackson about this, but can you tell us how you got the role originally doubling Scarlett Johansson?
That is a good question. I think originally when they were prepping Iron Man 2, they had a different actress involved, and she was taller than me. She was 5'7", and they had another stunt double that was going to do the work. And then something happened, I'm not sure what, and they ended up recasting and using Scarlett. And Tom Harper, working with Tom Harper right now, Tom Harper,
Confusing.
yeah, it's confusing, was the stunt coordinator, and I'd worked with him a bunch in the past, and he called me and said, hey, they've changed actresses. It's Scarlett Johansson. I'd like to bring you and Bridget Riley in because I think you both could do this job really well, and I'd love for you to meet her, and then I'm just going to have her pick.
Okay.
And so we went in and met her and did a little training with her and all that, and she chose me. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of that. We came in and trained her for like 6 or 7 weeks before we started Iron Man 2 and just kind of had a really good rapport, and that was it.
Right into that hallway fight.
Then we jumped right into the hallway. Actually, I can't remember if we shot that towards the end or not, but yeah, either way, that was...
Do you have a favorite stunt?
The most thrilling, exciting, and my favorite stunt to this date was I got to do a cannon in a car on a movie called The Host.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so that was an incredible day stunt.
What year was that?
I think it was like 2012, 2013. I'm not sure. I can't remember the actual date of it, but it was with Saoirse Ronan, and yeah, I don't know if people really saw that movie too much, but it was kind of an interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting concept for sure. Yeah, nice. Cannon roll.
Definitely, never done that.
Yeah, it is. It was definitely fun.
Is that your only cannon roll?
That's the only cannon I've done to date. Yeah, so far.
Do you do a lot of driving stunts though?
I do when I can now. I mean, I did Fly Me to the Moon with Scarlett, and I got to second unit direct a bit. She didn't have a ton of stunts, so I jumped in and drove for her on that. You know, when I can.
Yeah, I saw you drift a couple cars.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I wish I could spend more time training and driving and whatnot, but you know, at this point, my career is doing a different thing.
Yeah. It's going up. Do you have any moments that, like, I guess, changed your path as a stunt performer and a coordinator?
One of my head injuries was at work, and it was in that character, and that did change my path because it really propelled me into fight and stunt coordinating more than I would have probably stayed performing longer.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. You know, she was a big part of bringing me on to Fly Me to the Moon and supporting me in second unit and all that. So that definitely.
You worked with her for so long.
Yeah, for sure. So that definitely was a big thing for me. I think.
And that was not your first second unit, right?
No, I did second unit on Hawkeye additional photography. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And your first stunt coordinating job was with Hank. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you worked with Hank.
Yeah, The Hunt.
On The Hunt.
It's a great movie, by the way. Unfortunately, it dropped, I think, right around when COVID hit, and everyone was just more trying to figure out how to not die. But that film is really
a good time to watch film. That's all we were doing was watching movies and playing games.
Yeah, no, I really, just in general, I thought that film was just really great.
Yeah, no, it was. The
director was amazing. That Blumhouse is awesome to work for too. So.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment in Thunderbolts?
Do I have a favorite moment from Thunderbolts? I have quite a few favorite moments. I mean, one of my favorite moments was the first time on film on the day that Katie and Pat Walker jumped off the roof of Malaysia, because that had been thrown around. Are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it? How are we going to do it? When's too late to tell us we're going to do it? It was nerve-wracking.
When did you guys find out you were doing that?
We found out officially we were doing that just like 6 weeks before we were doing it. Like we thought it was going away because Disney kept saying no. And so we kept saying, like, if we're going to prep this, we need a lot of time to do this because it's a big deal. It's not just, it's a different country. It's all this. So when Katie first jumped off that roof and we were filming and the rig was built and we tested it and everything was safe, that was one of my favorite moments because I thought, I can't believe we're actually here. Yeah, I can't believe she just jumped off this building.
I would never.
So that was one of my favorite moments. Another favorite moment was, we were in Utah and it had been a long show and we'd had some hiccups with regard to the sequence we were doing, and we really needed this first Humvee to go over right and to be done well. And Shane Haberstad was driving that, and he's just cool as a cucumber. Like, you can't rattle him. He's just so with it. And he's like, I got you, no problem. He went out there and nailed this stunt, and he just really brought something to it. It was a really big deal. So that was a favorite moment. One of my favorite moments was, my sister was pregnant during the prepping of this film, and she had her baby, the week we started shooting. So she wasn't on most of the film. So when she came and brought her baby back to set, I think the scene might be out now, but it's a Tilted Pharmacy set we were shooting, and she came and brought Grizzly back to set, and her husband was dressed up as one of the other doubles for Bucky, and so we have pictures of them on set. So that was a favorite moment. And also I have to say, like, you know, it's really unfortunate because I really hate when anyone gets hurt, and I really do. And Sarah Irwin was such a rock throughout the whole show. She was so amazing. But when I actually, on the day when we were filming and I'm in costume and on a wire and, you know, doing this big gag, that was a favorite moment for me only. And I hate to say that because I don't want to take away from Sarah getting hurt because she's just phenomenal. But it was just being back, you know, like being able to do what I love doing again was nice. Yeah.
Now, this might be a controversial question. Do you like performing or coordinating better?
I probably would say I like performing better than anything. That's something I just very much enjoy. Coordinating I'm so blessed to be coordinating. I'm so blessed to be able to bring my teams together and make these films happen. But I'm more of a director and a performer than a coordinator, because coordinating it's hard. You know, you are literally coordinating the stunt department. So a lot of times you're not getting to be a part of the creative process as much as you want, because you have to do what's best for the picture and best for the team. So you have to kind of delegate and let people do other things, and you're stuck either in an office or, you know, somewhere making things happen or in a meeting, you know, missing out on some of those other things. So I would say that, you know, a performer director is my jam.
You like the performing aspect of it.
Yeah, I love it.
There's fun. There's a lot. I guess I'm not going to say more fun, but it's definitely more fun on the day being a performer. I think. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about directing. Can you give us some up and coming projects that you're working on right now?
I'm currently stunt coordinating on the next season of The Terminal List, which has been an amazing experience. So much fun. And I think that
in Canada,
Canada,
casually.
and, you know, hoping to be a part of that on the second unit directorial side. Jeff Haberstad's directing second unit right now, and hoping to be able to learn from him and you know, pick up some of the slack for him there as well. So and then I have a short film coming out that is being a big passion project for, you know, myself and a lot of people, including this world. It's called Fort Valor, and we're hoping to have that out and ready to hit the festival circuit here in August.
It's gonna be phenomenal.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah.
And you wrote and directed, correct?
I wrote and directed and produced.
All the hats.
All the hats. Yeah.
And where can we find you on social media? I know you're on Instagram, obviously.
I'm on Instagram at Heidi Moneymaker. I think most of my handles are at Heidi Moneymaker, but mostly
just type in Heidi Moneymaker.
Yeah.
She'll pop up. Promise.
Once again, this has been the Good Slate Late Show. I am your host, Graham Jones, and this has been Heidi Moneymaker. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Learned a lot.
Thank you.
Everyone go see Thunderbolts in theaters right now.
Do it.
Let's talk facts. The Avengers are not coming. Who will keep the American people safe?
There's some big threat out there, and you are gonna help me stop it.
Wait, us?
Yeah, you. Why, you got someplace to be?
I love that guy.
So none of us comply? So what, we all just punch and shoot?
I can't think of a worse group of people trying to work together.
Stop! Come on, speed! John, stop! Where are you?
Everyone here has done bad things. You can't escape the past. Hey, it's like your mind is somewhere else.
So you can do something about it now, or live with it forever.
This could get messy.
No shit. You thought you were gonna be some great saviors? You can't even save yourself.
We can't do this. No one here is a hero.
Lena, when I look at you, I don't see your mistakes. That's why we need each other.
Okay, that was really good.
We are the Thunderbolts!
Can't call ourselves that.
God, thank you.
This has makings of team that can rise to glory. Bring light from the darkness. This team can be the heroes on the Wheaties box with a little kitty toy.
Alexei, Have you slept?
I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'd like not to die today, so maybe somebody else should be driving.